Hello everybody, I'm Liz, this is French Toast and Books, and today we are talking about my most anticipated March 2021 releases. We have 12 books that I am on the lookout for, so let's get started. I have all of these books separated based upon the date of their expected release date. I wrote these down around the start of the year or right before the start of the year, so these dates may or may not have changed, but to the best of my ability, these are the dates. I'll write them down, I'll leave them and the links to the books if you want to check them out in the description down below if you're curious. So without further ado, let's get started. March 2nd, just 2 days away, super soon, has a bulk of these releases. We have 7 books just on March 2nd. 7 books, that's a ton. The first one for March 2nd, we're going to talk about the second book in the Infinity Cycle by Adam Silvera. This is called The Infinity Reaper. There's been a lot of buzz about this book, especially as it's Adam Silvera's huge on BookTube and really every book person's radar. And though I didn't particularly love the first book, Infinity Sun, I am intrigued enough to continue on in the series and figure out more about Brighton and Emile and their journey and the powers and the phoenixes and all of that stuff. I want to see what happens in the next book. Then we have the third book in the Cassidy Blake series by Victoria Schwab. This is called Bridge of Souls. We follow Cassidy Blake as she goes on with her parents to tour the most haunted spots in the world. And in the previous books, she went to Scotland for Edinburgh and then Paris in France. Now she's in New Orleans, Louisiana. Things are gonna go down. She always gets into trouble because Cassidy Blake sees ghosts. And like I said, they're going to the most haunted areas. So yeah, she gets in a lot of trouble. And I'm really excited to see what happens with everything that ended with Tunnel of Bones, which is the second book. I want to see what is in store for Cassidy Blake next. Next up, we have Down Comes the Night by Allison Saft. This is debut. The synopsis makes me think it is potentially LGBTQ friendly, with our main character starting off with a love interest that is a woman. Like I said, if I'm reading the synopsis correctly. And basically our main character, Ren, is disgraced by her magical kingdom, like order, and she has to whisk herself away to this mansion to heal and protect the mansion's like estate leader. And when she goes to this mansion to perform the healing to this person, she finds out it is an enemy of the country, and so things kind of happen. There's monsters and mayhem and scariness with this manor and all sorts of hullabaloo. So it sounds so good, and I'm really excited. Like I said, I really enjoy movies that are like Gothic romance. I don't necessarily read a lot of Gothic romance, so I'm pretty excited to see my take on reading and experiencing Gothic romance, and I can get somewhat Crimson Peak vibes from the synopsis of this book. And if you guys don't know, because I haven't talked about Crimson Peak in a hot minute, Crimson Peak is one of my favorite movies. I love it so much. So I am pretty excited about this. Next, we have The Conductor by Nicole Glover. This is another debut novel. I've been really excited about this one. It has a BIPOC cast, and oh, it just sounds so good. So it's a couple. It is post-Underground Railroad. This couple, they're black, and they, after helping aid people to safety through the Underground Railroad, now they are solving crimes in their neighborhood particularly black-centered crimes with murders, and they use magic to do so. Now they find that there's kind of, I think it, based upon the synopsis, it seems like there's a serial killer or something that's specifically targeting like their black community, and so they are going to try to solve this perpetrator with their magic, and it just, it sounds so good. I'm so excited for it. Next we have Klara and the Sun by Kazuo Ishiguro. This sounds so good. The author itself is BIPOC cast, and it has like all the elements I love, which is an AI exploring and trying to grapple and understand humanity and looking into the lens of what it means to be human, what it means to love. And essentially this AI is a part of a department store. She wants to be chosen by a customer to like go home with them, and so she's trying to be those qualities that humans want, that humans will gravitate to, so that she can be purchased and taken away from the store and be owned and loved. And it just, it sounds good. Next we have The Babysitter by Liza Rodman and Jennifer Gordon. This is half memoir, half crime investigation, as our characters detail the past of Liza Rodman. Her babysitter as a child was really revered, respected by her and her family, and come to find out this babysitter ends up being a serial killer, captured, tried, convicted, and now Liza has to kind of realize and figure out and distinguish between who she knew as a babysitter versus who she now is revealed as this serial killer. And I'm so excited for this one. The last book for March 2nd debuts is The Ladies of the Secret Circus by Constance Sayers. This sounds so good. It's a dual time perspective in both France, Paris specifically, in 1925, and then later on in Virginia, 2005. Essentially, the Paris timeline has a woman, a part of a circus. She ventures away from the circus to find and follow her true love, and it ends up cursing her and her family. And then down the line, Virginia in 2005 is her ancestor, her descendant, who's trying to break this curse. Then we have 3 books that are set to be released on March 9th. First up, we have Sing Me Forgotten by Jessica S. Olsen. This is a debut book with Phantom of the Opera vibes, and I love Phantom of the Opera so much that I am so stoked for this kind of retelling, gender-bent story with memory manipulation. It just sounds so intriguing. Essentially, our main character, when she sings, she mesmerizes the audience. She can manipulate their memories, and the opera house singer takes her in because she's supposed to not exist, and saves her in a sense, but also uses her powers to keep his opera house in business. And she breaks like his one rule, and that is to meet somebody outside the opera house, fall in love with them, and obviously Phantom of the Opera, things escalate and go downhill. Then we have The Bone Maker by Sarah Beth Durst. I love kind of post-hero journeys. Like, I'm very intrigued by them because all of the crazy heroics, saving of a government or a country by some supervillain has already happened. It's already done. And now the superheroes have to face the trauma and the grief and kind of the disaster that their lives are going to be in post-hero journey. And this has definitely happened with our main character. And so this is 25 years post-hero journey, post the defeat of the Bone Maker. And our main character, Kreia, ever since they defeated the Bone Maker, she's isolated herself, she's put herself into exile, and her sole purpose is to discover how to revive her dead husband, who died when they were doing the end battle of defeating the Bone Maker. And so she essentially follows the Bone Maker's footsteps to dive into bone magic to resurrect her dead husband. And it really does follow the 5 heroes, and especially the journey of Klara, and how grief really can manipulate you into becoming potentially the enemy that you first faced off. And it sounds so good. And lastly, for March 9th, we have Sweet and Bitter Magic by Adrienne Tooley. This one sounds really interesting. We have a cursed witch, the plague, love, magic, bond deal, and I'm sure it's going to be super, super messy. And it does say it's perfect for fans of Sorcery of Thorns and Girls of Paper and Fire, which y'all know I enjoyed Girls of Paper and Fire. So maybe there might be little LGBT themes in this book, and if so, I'd be so excited and so happy for that. Essentially, we have Tamsin, which is a powerful witch of her generation. She creates a magical sin and is thus exiled and stripped of her ability to love. And so the only way she feels love is if she steals it from others. And then you have Ren, a source, which is essentially a person who can be used to produce magic. And essentially when Ren's father falls victim to the plague that has been ravishing and rampaging through their country, Ren seeks out Tamsin, seeks a bargain with her to stop the witch that is started and profited off of this plague. And in doing so, Ren will essentially break Tamsin's curse, allow her to love, essentially stripping all of Ren's love for her father. Then we have one book for March 16th. It's called Fragile Remedy by Maria Ingrata Mora, and this is a LGBT-friendly book, its debut. The main character is going to have a gay romance with another character. It sounds really interesting as our main character, Nate. He is a genetically engineered medi-tissue person, so he's a genetically engineered human, specifically made for the fact that they are healing. They're using their body once they're mature to heal people who suffer from this plague of lung rot, this disease that's wreaking havoc on many of the traditional human citizens of this country, this region. And Nate, when he was a child, was smuggled out of this medical facility so that he could grow up and be a member of society in the shadows. He becomes a tinker because he uses engineering skills. And so he meets a boy named Reed. They fall in love. And he obviously, Nate needs to find money in order to stay alive. Because as a genetically engineered person, they have a fail-safe where if he doesn't receive this medicine, his body will deteriorate and decompose. And so he has to bargain with really shady crime people to stay alive. And it's this whole thing because his love interest, Reed, has no idea who he is as a genetically engineered person, and he wants to keep it a secret. Obviously, I'm sure things are going to spiral and get out of hand as he's working for the shady organization to get the medication he needs, and it's gonna be messy, and it sounds so good. I'm thrilled. And the last book on this 12-book excitement is set to release March 23rd. It is called Lost in the Neverwood by Aidan Thomas. It's supposed to be a very dark Peter Pan retelling. So essentially, boys end up starting to go missing, and this is after 5 years of our main character, Wendy, when they disappeared, went missing in the woods, and her brothers are still missing. And so she feels like she's getting pulled back into her past trauma, and she runs into a boy unconscious on this road. His name's Peter, and she remembers him from her stories. She thinks that he's supposed to only exist in her dreams and in her stories, but obviously he's here. So she has to reconcile that, and he thinks that if they don't do something, the boys that are going missing are going to suffer the same fate as her brothers when they went missing 5 years ago. And so Wendy gets pulled onto this adventure to try to find these missing boys and confront whatever is in the woods taking these boys from this town. So there we have it. There we have 12 books that are set to release in March that I am so excited for. I am so thrilled with each and every one of these books. They sound so fascinating. Please let me know in the comments down below if you've heard of any of these books, if any of these books also intrigue you, or if there's a book I didn't mention that intrigues you. Please alert me. I love hearing about new debuts, new books that will be releasing this year. And what are you guys most excited for? What books are coming out in March that you are so excited and thrilled to purchase or read or just find more information about? Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, remember that I love you. Bye!